And welcome to the Family Based Pod. My name is Jake, and today we have a different kind of episode because, as you all know, this past Monday was Labor Day. So we took Labor Day off too, and we decided to release a pre recorded conversation I had with a childhood friend, Jake. Yes, his name is also Jake, about his fandom as Cubs fan. Talk about the past, talk about the present, we talk about the future of the Cubs and just baseball as a whole. So I hope you guys enjoy. If you are listening, thank you for listening. Subscribe wherever you are listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification bell. They'll alert you whenever there's a new episode, and then also comment, anything, just interactions, engagement. It'd be great. So enjoy the conversation, and thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week with a new episode. Okay, have a good week. Enjoy. Welcome to a special episode of the Family Based Podcast. My name is Jake, and here we have a childhood friend of mine, and he is also Jake Karmel. Say hi, Jake.
Hello. Happy to be here. Always happy to talk about the Cubs.
I wouldn't say happy all the time, but I think we'll get there.
Right.
But genuinely, I never really asked you this question, so this is going to be just informal. We're not going to hit on any major thing. I just really want to introduce you to the people who watch or listen, but also I want to ask questions I've never asked you before. And that actually first starts off with, I never asked, but how did you actually become a Cubs fan?
Yeah, I was born into it. My dad is from Glencoe, Illinois, which is a north suburb of Chicago. Right off the, first he was from Skokie, which was right off the yellow line, and the yellow line you can take, for those who know Chicago, you can take it right to the red line and down to Wrigley. Yeah. And his childhood best friend is this guy by the name of Ross Baumgartner, who pitched for the White Sox and pitched for the Pirates. And back in the day, the two of them used to take the Skokie Swift to the red line and go sit in the bleachers for 25 cents, however much tickets were back then.
Yeah, I was going to say $1, but that seems high.
That does seem high for the 60s.
Yes. Yeah.
And they would sit out there and they'd watch everyone from those teams, Ron Santo and Ernie and Kenny Holtzman, and he was there for Milt Pappas' no-hitter. So I was born into it. I really had no choice, even growing up on the south side of Chicago.
But did you grow up liking which one came first, liking the Cubs or liking baseball?
They were both kind of at the same time.
Right.
I played Little League like everybody else did back when we were growing up, and so I got really into baseball, and with that came a love for the Cubs. I've been lucky enough where my dad has had season tickets or has bought into season tickets, I should say, because they're not his, for as long as I can remember. So he used to take me to games from 1998 was the first game I remember, even though I know I went to games before that, all the way to 2016 playoffs and beyond. So I've been going to games for majority of my life, and really kind of just born into the lifestyle.
Yeah, it's certainly a lifestyle. That's a good word choice. Because I feel like being a Cubs fan, that is a good word to use for it. So you said 1998 was the first game you went to. But what was the earliest memory you have of the Cubs or being a fan in general?
Mm-hmm. So I do remember here and there spotty games before then, but I have a very vivid memory of going in 1998, and I actually, on my other screen here, I pulled up the box score from the game.
Oh.
It was a game. It was a game in August of '98 versus the Houston Astros when they were still in the division and not in the American League. And the reason why I remember it is because the Cubs lost. They lost that game, and we left early because they blew it late in the seventh inning. And when we walked out of the game, Sammy Sosa hit a home run, and I made my dad take me across the street to Wrigleyville Sports, which is still there.
Yeah.
And when we walked out of Wrigleyville Sports, Sosa hit another home run. And so, for whatever reason, that memory has stuck with me, and that was the earliest game that I remember.
So Sosa hit 2 home runs after you left. I mean, that teaches you a lesson to never leave early.
Right. Right. No, and it's a very Cubs fan thing that my earliest memory is a loss.
Yeah, this tangent for a second. I have a very vivid memory of when Kerry Wood came back to the Cubs after a little bit, and he was the closer, and I
Mhm.
remember them winning, and he blew the lead in the ninth, and I just remember the visual, the audio, like the sounds, the fans, the groans around me. But yeah, that's a very Cubs thing, is seeing something bad happen that sticks out.
Right. Right. No, and
Uh, s- yeah, go ahead.
what I was going to say is what I do remember, which was the same year, but before this, was I remember following along Kerry Wood when he struck out 20 against the Astros. That was
Yeah,
in May of that year, because I remember uh, my dad tried to get me to come with him to the game because it was an afternoon game. My mom didn't let me go because it was during school. So my dad went with some, I don't remember who he went with, probably my uncle. And so he went to the game and he saw Kerry Wood strike out 20 while I was in
oh my gosh.
fourth grade social studies or whatever it was back then.
I mean, before the Cubs won in 16, that might have been like the Cubs like big good moment,
Mm-hmm.
and you had to go to school.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Western Avenue.
Also, a lesson for parents: let a kid sometimes go to a day game. That's all.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I agree.
So you mentioned that Terrywood and Sosa were one of those two players your favorite player growing up, or was it someone else?
Growing up, it was Sosa. I mean, everybody loved Sosa. Everyone loved, as the rap
Yeah,
song goes. I didn't even. That was unintentional, but everyone
yeah,
loved Sammy Sosa growing up. I mean, after the lockout in '94, which I don't really remember, but the home run race in '98 is what brought everybody back, and I was right there in the ripe age of someone getting into baseball, and I remember watching Mark McGuire and watching Sammy Sosa. I think A
yeah,
Rod might have hit 50 home runs that year. Watching A Rod go after the record. I know Griffey. I think he
yeah,
hit 50 that year,
yeah,
and uh, and it was a perfect time to be a baseball fan as a young kid.
yeah. I think it was Griffey was within 5 home runs until like the last like 3 months or 2.5 months of this season. So I know Griffey. I don't know for all I know, A Rod could have had a good year, but
I know Griffey was the one. The A Rod one may not have been right, but I know it was Griffey.
yeah. I mean, Erod did hit a lot more home runs, but that was also due to something else. But that was Sosa and McGuire. The only clean one we know of is Griffey, but either way, different topic. Um,
Right.
so, but who's your favorite player right now on the Cubs? But maybe if it's someone else from not the Cubs, who's your favorite player to watch?
So I'm my favorite player to watch is probably Shohei Otani, just
Yeah,
because what he does is so different than everybody else, and but I feel like
a little
that's
bit.
the stock. That's right. I feel like that's the stock answer. But my favorite player on the Cubs is Ian Happ. I come from the I
Mm,
I always tell people that Ian Happ is a good baseball player, and No one ever wants to hear it. And I am the biggest Ian Happ supporter there is. And there are dozens of us, Jake. There are dozens of us.
It doesn't. I mean, he made the All-Star team this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's something. He's having the best year of his career. And this week, he hit his 100th home run. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, hopefully he'll be around. We'll see.
I hope so too. I hope so too.
But so why Inheb?
Uh, more how it started was really just being a little bit of a contrarian with everyone who would always trash Hap. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to find a reason to like this guy. And just especially over the last couple of years, really even with last year too, how they sold everybody off last year.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a part of the 2016 team. He came up in 17. And since 2019, he's been one of the best outfielders in all of baseball offensively, which is something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. And especially this year, he's been playing great defense in left field. So
yeah,
he's just one of those guys that shows up to the ballpark every day, plays hard, doesn't listen to people who trash him or deserved or not deserved. And he is one who I think that they need to extend and be there for the long term, be the new veteran presence.
Yeah, him and Contreras, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So how'd you feel with all the rumors with Ian Happ possibly being traded this year? How'd you feel about that?
I mean, I didn't want it to happen, but if he got traded, I'd get it because it's kind of a sell him high. This is probably near his peak. I think he still is probably going to get even a little bit better, but he's probably about at his peak. He's in his late 20s. That's when most guys hit their peak. So I mean, if they got value for him, then I was all for it. But I was happy to see him not go on deadline day.
Yeah. I mean, me too. We'll just say that. So you mentioned earlier that your dad had season tickets growing up. Do you have season tickets right now?
I do. I have a half season. So this is the first year where they gave you the option to buy a half season with the ability any year from here on out to upgrade to a full package, which I think, depending on what the prices come in at, which they haven't told us season ticket holders yet. Excuse me. Depending what prices are for my seats, we'll see if I upgrade to a full season, but at least I'll do a half season next year.
All right. So you're part of the base that Tom Ricketts and Jet Hort always talks about with season ticket holders. So now I know who to blame when they're like, we're trying to do better.
Right.
But so with the Cubs this year, I think we can agree the Cubs. I think as of today, they are 15 under. Maybe today, I think maybe today they won, so maybe 14 under. Either way, with the Cubs being under 500 and not playing well overall, I don't mean it to sound weird, but is it hard sometimes to go to the games, or is it still an enjoyable experience?
I mean, the motivation, that's a great question, because I think the motivation isn't there on an April day when it's 48 degrees out and it's drizzling in Chicago and you don't want to go sit outside and you can't, I can't even give tickets away or beg someone to go with. But on the rest of the year, like when it's a night like tonight, I was able to. Well, I gave my tickets to I auctioned them off at a charity event, so someone's taking my tickets tonight. But on a night like tonight, where it's 80 degrees in Chicago and sunny and no wind and no humidity, it's still the best place to watch a baseball game. I think. I know I'm biased, but I think I've been lucky enough to go go to a lot of stadiums. Wrigley, I think, is still one of the best places to watch a baseball game.
Okay. Um, Very side note question, but what's your one other favorite place besides Wrigley that you've seen a game?
In San Francisco at
Yep.
T-Mobile or AT&T Park, I think it's called now, or AT&T Stadium. Uh,
Yeah. Some.
one of the cell companies. I think T-Mobile is Seattle.
Right.
Um, but San Francisco is a beautiful ballpark, right on the water. Um, the weather's never bad. Sometimes it could be cold, but it's never bad. The food's great at that field. Uh, it's a little expensive, but it's San Francisco.
Right.
But watching the game, it's one of the best places that I've been to watch a baseball game.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've heard Pittsburgh. I've heard the Padre, like Petco Park. Um, yeah, I've heard Seattle. Of course, you hear Fenway, but yeah, I think you forget about San Fran. I think people forget how nice it is um, on the
I just think,
live, but
yeah, I just think it's a very unique ballpark. I mean, I've been to Fenway. Fenway is also awesome. Fenway, like Wrigley, is one of the cathedrals of Major League Baseball.
right,
Uh, but Fenway is a little bit older than Wrigley, and so it's a little more crammed. Like Wrigley, they've done a great job with the renovations, uh, and there are areas where you can't see. But in Fenway, you could be like eighth row behind the dugout and have a pole directly like this in front of you. In Wrigley, they
yeah,
did a good job to try and get rid of that.
yeah, and I'll just add as someone in a wheelchair, I can't go to Fenway really. I can go to maybe like 6 seats, but in Wrigley, it's actually a lot more accessible now with the renovations. So it's just my very, very subjective opinion. If I can get into your place, that's always a good thing.
Right, right.
So you mentioned your favorite player, Ian Happ, but outside of him, who's a young player right now that you actually either see a long future for him or you just enjoy watching? Who's one of the younger guys?
So I mean, on the top prospects, so a guy, I am that guy who because with season tickets you get the MLB package and you get access to minor league games. So I've watched some of the Cubs minor league games.
Yeah,
So Pete Crow Armstrong is he everything you read about him, Cubs fans read about him, he's he's the real deal. He's the guy watching him play baseball. He's going to be a special player. But on on the big league club, I mean,
yeah,
there's Christopher Morel. I think he's a guy that uh, can play in multitude of different positions. And if it weren't for uh, Atlanta and their ability to seemingly hold their young players hostage and sign them to these team friendly extensions,
yeah,
Christopher Morel might have been the National League Rookie of the Year. Michael Harris is probably going to win it in Atlanta, but he's right there in the conversation. There's a bunch of good guys on that team. I still consider Nico Horner one of the young guys. Nico
yeah.
Horner has taken a big step forward this year. Those are really the two that stand out to me when I watch them.
Yeah, on the podcast, we actually sometimes get into a debate. Is Seiya Suzuki even really? I mean, we know he's a rookie, but do
Mm-hmm.
we even consider him like a young guy on the team, or is he just like this fog of a position where he is experienced but not really? Anyway, so yeah, I do love Christopher Morel. I got on that train pretty early. Um, but man, I don't know where he's gonna play long term. I mean, like what position? He plays second. third. He can play center. I just don't know where they're going to slide him, but I guess that's a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
So don't really know. But you mentioned Nico Horner. So again, on the podcast, we've had, I feel like it's got to be like 5 of our 30 some episodes so far. We've had this like debate about Nico Horner. So the conversation is, so you, Jake Karmel, would you stick with Nico Horner at shortstop, or it's not an and question, or would you go out and get one of those top line free agents like a Trey Turner, Carlos Correa, maybe Dansby Swanson? Would you go out, get them, or would you stick it out with a 25-year-old Nico Horner?
So I think that you can have your cake and eat it too in this situation. I
Okay.
think you can stick with Nico Horner, slide Horner over to second base, and go out and get one of those guys. Because I think if you have the chance to land one of those guys, as good as Nico Horner is, those guys you just named are not only are they some of the top shortstops in baseball, they're some of the top players in baseball. And I think when you have a chance to go out and get one of those bats, you take it. And especially a Trey Turner who bats fourth right now for the Dodgers and steals 30 bases. I don't know if there's another cleanup hitter in baseball. Maybe Otani when he bats cleanup when he's not pitching, who can steal bases like Turner can and hit for power, frankly. Um, Dansby Swanson might win the Gold Glove. Carlos Correa has been one of the best has probably been the best shortstop in baseball over the
All
last
right.
5 years. And then there was a fourth guy you mentioned.
Well, I didn't mention him, but
Was
Xander Bogaerts.
Xander Bogaerts. Xander Bogaerts. I think those three are in kind of the A tier, and then Xander Bogaerts is right below them in that B tier.
Okay. Okay.
But if it's between Nico Horner and Xander Bogaerts, I don't think Xander Bogaerts is frankly all that worth it. But I think if you have a chance to get one of those first three guys, you have to take it, and you have to then move Nico Horner to second base.
Yeah. So Nick Madrigal, we gave him half season, and we're like, see you later. Is that your thought?
I mean, I I don't particularly like Madrigal all that much. I think he's good for what he is, which is
Yeah.
like if we were playing baseball in Major League Baseball in 1999, that's the type of second baseman Nick Madrigal is, where he's going to hit 280. He's also going to slug 280. Like, he's
Yeah.
not going to hit for any power. He's not really going to steal a ton of bases, and he's going to play fine second base defense, which
Yeah.
guys like that are a dime a dozen. He's not going to strike out a lot, which is good. But everything to me, or everything that tells me, is make him a middle infield utility guy that comes off the bench and gives Nico Horner or hopefully Trey Turner, Correa, or Dansby Swanson a day off, which is also a good problem to have. But
Yes. Yes. So I made that point. I think it was in June. I think it was. I was advocating the Cubs actually get Dansby Swanson because if you look at his numbers, he actually is hitting just a little bit below Trey Turner, but he's making half of what Trey Turner makes right now. I mean,
mm-hmm.
sure, in future it'll be different, but yeah, he's also defensively the only guy better at shortstop than Nico Horner. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I've been making that statement, but it's almost like the longer Nico Horner is floating around 300 and playing good defense, man, it's hard. It's hard to. It's not hard to go out and sign someone. I think it'd be hard for Tom Ricketts to go out and sign someone. That's
Yeah.
all.
I mean, I agree that the last couple years he hasn't shown that he wants to spend money, but he he has shown before that he's willing to spend the money. I mean, granted, we know how the Jason Hayward experiment went, but he paid Jason Hayward. He paid
Yeah.
John Lester.
Yeah.
Um, so when the time has come, he's done it. It's just a question of will he this offseason, which I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean that's the last like present day question I had is really about the strategy, the movement from the front office to get these young guys, and we can talk about all these young guys and their promise. But are you a Cubs fan who is patient and is going to wait maybe another year or two to see a really good young group, or would you rather see Tom Ricketts, Jed Hoyer go out and spend money on? And they said they spent money last offseason. I mean, they didn't really. Outside of Stroman, they did. Um,
Right.
but so, which one would you prefer as a Cubs fan? Maybe longevity with this young group, or going out and maybe signing? I know you can have your cake and eat it too, but if you had the option of being like, I want to contend it in a year or two, like next year, do you think they're going to do that, or should they do that?
So I don't think they're as far off as I thought they were going into this year. So
Okay.
I actually think this year they've shown a lot of promise with some of the players that they have. Uh, so I think next year, I think it should be. I've told people around me about when they ask me about cup tickets and saying like they're so bad. Like, what do you mean you have season tickets and Ricketts and blah 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 blah? And I say I'm going to give them 3 years. I'll give it 3 seasons. At the end of the third season, I'll reevaluate. If it seems that we're going back to the days of trying to buy Alfonso Soriano and Ted Lilly and
Oh,
piecing together a team, which I don't want to go back to. So the fact that they're trying to do it with homegrown talent, I like. And I liked some of the guys that they've gotten in some of these trades. I mean,
yeah,
they went from a farm system before last year, before these trades of their bottom third of the MLB, and
yeah,
now they're one of the top. I think they're in the top 10. I know that for sure. I think they might be even like top 8. So I think they have some good guys that are coming up if they can stay healthy. Brennan
yeah,
Davis is coming back and playing baseball again. Like he's finally back from injury. Pete Crow Armstrong might make the team out of camp the way he's playing next year. I mean, Owen Casey is a guy to look out for.
yeah.
He's going to be kind of an Adam Dunn type player where he's going to hit 30 home runs, but he might strike out 150 times.
I mean,
Uh,
but that's cool nowadays.
right, which is batting average. My dad always says like whenever he does his old man yells at cloud about baseball, he always says batting average doesn't mean anything anymore, and which is right. It really doesn't. There's more ways to calculate how valuable a player is to a baseball team. Uh, I think Alexander Canario, who they got in the Bryant trade last year,
Yeah,
he's in AAA now. He's hit 30 home runs between all the different leagues he's been in. I mean, they
yeah,
have players. So that's why I think that they can bring some of these guys up, go get a shortstop, go get starting pitching help because they need starting pitching help.
yeah,
And let's see where this is in 2 years. I don't think they're that far off.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say you just convinced me, but I'm closer that way now. I don't want to give you the satisfaction of saying that, but I'm a little bit closer. I'll say that. All right, so uh, thinking about the Cubs' future, if you had to pick just one player, what player do you think is going to be the cornerstone of the franchise? I'm not talking about the Haps, the Contreras, or Because Stroman, I'm talking about those younger guys. You talked about
Mm-hmm.
PCA a lot, Picro Armstrong. Do you think he is the cornerstone piece, or is there another young guy you think will be the guy?
I think Crow Armstrong is going to be the guy. I really do. I mean, they don't make left-handed hitting outfielders who
Yeah,
can run like he can, and something that wasn't expected. I don't even think when the Mets traded him last year was the power that he's hitting for this year. His power this year has taken him a huge step forward. I mean, I think he's top five in or was top five in high A ball and doubles.
yeah,
Granted, it's high A ball, and I always have to tell myself with him like to pump the brakes a little bit. But
yeah.
I mean, the way that he plays great outfield. I think he's going to be he
Hmm.
could play all three outfield positions and play him well. I think
Yeah,
he's going to end up being the center fielder, and I think Brennan Davis moves to one of the corner spots. But I think between those two guys, I think Brennan Davis is still the real deal, even though he hasn't played this year really yet. But
yeah.
we'll see.
But you just said he would take a corner outfield spot. So out of curiosity, Desea Suzuki and Ian Hep, eh, are they going to be short term on the Cubs? And is Brendan Davis the long term solution?
I think I think sadly, as much as I don't want to see Ian Happ go, I think Ian Happ is short term. Um, I I don't see he's under contract one more year. So I think he'll be with the team he'll be with the team next year. And I think next year, if they're not competing, or if they think that they want to bring more guys up later in the year and have a year kind of like either 2004, like more like kind of 2014, when
Yeah,
Baez came up, when Bryant came up, when all those guys came up near the end of the year. Soler, I think, was a part of that group. Uh,
yeah.
I think Ian Happ will be one of those guys that gets flipped for a couple of prospects.
Hmm.
But if he stays, I think he can play. He's a Swiss Army knife. He can play second. He can play third. He can play all three outfield positions. He can play first.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be a real bummer for him to possibly go through another trade deadline like that again. But I mean, he might, and so can Contreras. He'll probably get the qualifying offer, Contreras. But yeah, they might have the same fate next time around, and I'm still gonna be like, growing up as a catcher, I'm like a huge Contreras stan.
Mm-hmm.
People were ragging on him, especially defensively. Now that he's kind of bumped down his, I don't know, average, but being in a kind of slump, especially in July, they were ragging on him. But man, it'd be hard to see Contreras and Hap not be Cubs. Well, at least one of them not be a Cub, like for life. I think that'd be kind of weird. But also, again, no one no one is a Cub for life, so I guess
No,
being a Cub for life would be weird too.
right, right. I
Um,
mean, can we talk about the Wilson Contreras thing for a second?
yeah, let's do it.
I, I have some thoughts on it. So, uh, we were talking earlier about Jed Hoyer's press conference after the deadline,
Yeah,
and so the Ian Happ no trade, I understood because I think now either you have to extend him or you at least have another year to trade him. The Wilson Contreras no trade, I don't understand. I don't understand what they are doing with him because Hoyer made a comment during his press conference that stuck out to me and really bothered me. He said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines of, we don't think that the value that we were offered for Contreras
mm,
crossed the threshold for
right.
what we were willing to part him with. It was
Yeah,
something like that,
yeah,
which to me tells me he had one plan with Wilson Contreras. It was to trade him to San Diego because he didn't think that San Diego was going to get Juan Soto, and when they got Juan Soto, he was caught with no plan. Uh, because that value comment makes no sense because, like you said about the qualifying offer, so they give him the qualifying offer next year, and he's going to sign somewhere for a big deal, unless he takes a hometown discount for whatever the qualifying offer is probably going to be, probably like 15 million or 18 million, somewhere around
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And so he's going to sign for a higher AAV or at least the same AAV for a longer term contract that the Cubs don't want to offer him because they haven't. And the Cubs then get a third round pick. You're telling me that what you were offered isn't more valuable than a random draft pick of a 19-year-old who you have no idea what is going to happen, who's been playing high school baseball or been a probably another pitcher for some second tier Division 1 school.
Yeah.
Like that made no sense to me. Even if you're getting one top 100 prospect for him, he's more established than whoever you're going to get in the draft. And they have scouted well, to their credit, so they could find someone. But I was pretty mad on the deadline day when Contreras wasn't traded.
Mm. As someone who is a stan,
I love Wilson Contreras. That's not to say I don't.
yeah. So, do I? So at the time, and now that I guess time has kind of passed a little bit, I'm not saying I'm more on that side, but I'm more confused by it. Especially the young catchers that are coming up, like Adley Rushman is. I mean, he's the the real guy, for sure. I think they're, but with Contreras, he is in the discussion for All Pro, or at least second, maybe third team catcher in my opinion. My
Oh
it's
yeah.
subjective. I know that. Um, so when I heard him say that that comment, I was like, so you evaluated him as like but one of the best, if not the best guy out there, and you did not get an offer that was, you know, good, like that equaled the value.
Hmm.
Like, and I was like, I'm kind of okay with that because that means you value him highly, and I know in the future it's gonna make things, it's just decision making kind of fuzzy. But I'm since the beginning of the year, I've always championed the extend Contreras thing. I've
Hmm.
said it from day one. Extend him. I don't care. I even said at one point, give him a blank check and let him stay forever. And also, I would say that he is a good mentor. He is yeah. I think also, yeah, the crap people give him defensively, I think he's kind of proven that wrong. But I would say
Hmm.
that it does confuse me because I don't know if I agree that the Padres were the only option. But man, once the Astros traded for who was it, Velasquez.
Yeah.
Once the Astros got Velasquez, I was like, yeah, this is not going to go well. Like,
Yeah.
because if they're getting him and not trading for Contreras, I don't know who can offer something, like if they're willing to kind of settle for Velasquez. But man, I want to see Contreras long term, so I was okay with it. That's kind
Yeah.
of my one point.
Yeah. I think the only other team who, right. I mean, that was part of the problem is there weren't a ton of suitors out there for who needed catchers. The
Right.
one who needs catcher the most is probably the New York Mets. But the New York Mets, not only their top prospect, but the top prospect in baseball was Francisco Alvarez. What
Yeah.
position does he play? He's a catcher. So they weren't going to be willing to part with pieces for 1 year, half a year of Contreras when they have their guy coming up next year. And then I think the other issue with the market for Contreras was there were so many. It was Contreras and then everybody else, and there were so many other catchers available where teams were like, we can get a guy who's probably. And I agree with you. I think Contreras has proved a lot of people wrong. I mean, he's really good defensively, but teams could say we can get a catcher who we think is better defensively than Contreras. Uh, right, wrong, or indifferent. Definitely worse offensively, and we don't.
Yeah.
We have to part with a 19-year-old 300th in our
Yeah.
system prospect for
Yeah.
him. They do that all day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would just say simply, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the
The
next
offseason will be
year.
interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I think I he wants to stay here, with the Cubs. I don't know if he will, but I think it'd be kind of interesting. One question is that I'll just transition. One question that we talked about very early on in the year was no, sorry, this conversation came up in the roundabout way from Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of his garbage that he brought with him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the question actually came up was, is there something your favorite sports team, let's just keep it as the Cubs, is there something the Cubs could do to not make you a fan? Like, is there a political move? Is there no? Oh, sorry, the conversation even came up with Ukraine and Russia. I don't even know how, but um, we were talking about what if Tom Ricketts like supported Putin? Not saying he did or will, but is there something the Cubs could do that would make you kind of either back off as a Cubs fan or maybe just completely eliminate them?
Wow. Um, wow. I mean, completely eliminate, probably not. I,
Mm,
I say that, but I mean, I'm right. I mean, it would have to be something real, like Tom would have to have a private army marching tanks down Michigan Avenue, because I
mm,
mean the Ricketts obviously have all their politics with their dad Joe, and Pete is the governor of Nebraska, and Todd was in the Trump administration, and but Laura Ricketts is the daughter who's on the board of the Cubs, and she's on the board of Emily's list, and was Hillary
yeah,
Clinton's biggest fundraiser in 2016. Um, I mean, it would have to be something like, to borrow a quote from He Who Shall Not Be Named, like shooting a guy in the middle of Fifth Avenue.
okay,
Like, I mean, that would make me think second thoughts. But I mean, at the same time, like, if it's something at the ownership level, where it's something that one of like Ricketts or one of the Ricketts kids did, or Joe Ricketts, the old man, did something worse than what he's already been doing, it would make me it would make me second guess more about season tickets.
mm,
Would I still have a Fubo TV subscription so I can watch the Marquee Network, so I can watch games? Like, would I still go to games especially while they're bad? While tickets, like, I listed tickets the other day for $10 a seat, and they didn't sell. Like,
mm,
would I try and buy $10 tickets and go? Yeah. I mean, it is so ingrained in me. Like, the movie Moneyball, or not
yeah.
Moneyball, Fever Pitch, the movie Fever Pitch
All right, right.
with
Yeah,
with
that
with
makes more sense.
Yeah, that's what I meant, not Moneyball. The movie Fever Pitch, Jimmy Fallon. I mean, I'm not a high school math teacher, but that's me with the Cubs. I mean, like it's no accident that I had this background ready to go because it's my Zoom background for work calls. I'm wearing my Cubs sweatshirt. I have three more
Yeah.
Cubs sweatshirts in the closet.
Yeah.
I don't know how many T-shirts. I think I have 4 or 5 jerseys in my closet. Like I have a lot of Cubs stuff.
A little bit. I have a lot of Cubs hats. I wouldn't say. Oh yeah, I wouldn't say that many jerseys because I got burned. During 2016, my favorite player was Edison Russell,
Oh,
and very quickly he became not my favorite.
yeah.
So I was like, I don't know if I want to spend money on a jersey. But then I bought one for Rizzo, and then he got traded like a month later. So cigars, we'll say that.
I have a
Um,
Bryant jersey hanging up in there.
yeah. So ownership would have to do something like significant, like national news.
Yeah, I think it would have to be something to that level, or
Yeah.
like Tom or more likely one of his brothers runs for president and they're
Mm,
using the Cubs as a fundraising arm. I would probably
right.
think twice about giving money to them because I don't want them to use my money for the campaign. Like
Yeah.
that's honestly probably my answer is one of them runs for president and uses the team as a fundraising arm.
Okay.
It would make
I
me
mean,
pause.
yeah. Yeah. No, I get that for sure. Um, I will admit, I don't remember my answer at the time, but man, I would just say this simply is if the Cubs signed a player with the background of Deshaun Watson and stuck by him like the Browns are right now, maybe. That I mean, maybe. That's all I'm saying is maybe.
Yeah. I mean, the closest thing we had was 2016. They traded for Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah,
But,
true.
but I mean, both bad situations.
Yeah,
But one is a serial sexual assaulter, and one was firing a gun,
allegedly.
allegedly.
Alleged.
Allegedly.
Yeah, we have to say it
No, I
allegedly.
agree. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Um, all right. So, last question is, and this is in August as we record it. So we made predictions before the year. Who's
Mm-hmm.
going to win the World Series? As of August right now, I know you've got a huge advantage over me. But in August, who's the World Series champion of this year of 2022? Who do you think?
The New York Metropolitans. I think the New York
Wow.
Mets. I am I am all in on the New York Mets. Uh, they've probably, other than the Cubs, they are who I've watched the most this year with the MLB package. Um, with Scherzer getting healthy, DeGrom coming back, Taiwan Walker has been great this year for them. Chris Bassett has been great for them. Their
Yeah.
offense is the best offense they've had in quite some time, probably since 2015 when they made the World Series. Their bullpen leaves a lot to be desired until you get to Edwin Diaz.
Yeah.
Edwin Diaz is the best reliever in baseball, and I think that goes a long way. They're going to have some guys step up to go into the playoffs. You need a complete pen. You can't just rely on one guy. But they've
Sure.
had, I mean, with how good they've had more times than not where that bullpen has held up well. Or if DeGrom goes 8 innings and you go to Edwin Diaz in October, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or if you're up 6 runs before you get to the bullpen, it doesn't matter. So the New York Mets are my World Series champion.
I'm interested to see if they. I'm not interested if they're. I'm not going to say not interested. I'm going to say I'm intrigued more if the Braves are going to somehow win the division. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think the Mets will go far? Yeah, but that division race will be fun for sure. So I'm gonna hold you to that. We'll see, and if the Mets, or if they pull an early exit, man, I'm gonna shove that in your face. But also, I picked the Blue Jays before the year, and they're in the wild card spot, but they got issues as well. So you can clown me if they exit early, which they might, but we'll see.
Didn't they fire their manager too?
Yeah, it makes no sense. But I mean, man. Yeah, I wanna go off and talk about it, but I'll just say this: if one of these teams has an early exit, one of the Jags is gonna get their face smashed in with this. I have more faith in the Mets right now, so I'm expecting that pie in the face. That's all. All right, so I've asked you some questions about the past, present, and the future of the Cubs, but also just in general. So I just want to thank you for coming on. This is the first time we're doing it, so we'll see how it goes from here. But thank you for being the first one, and thanks for the patience that goes into this. So that's going to wrap up this special episode of the Family Based Pod. My name is Jake, and we're here with Jake Karmel, and we're going to say bye, Jake.
Bye, Jake. Go Cubs!
Yeah, that's I'll keep saying it. I don't know how much I'll continue to believe it, but man, go Cubs. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
I'm Eden. Thanks for watching this episode of my dad's podcast. Check out the links in the description to follow the podcast on TikTok, Instagram, and the other social media. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell to let you know when there's a new episode. Thanks for watching and for listening.